When Muslim intellectual TARIQ Ramadan was last in Studio 4, he called on moderate Muslims to come out of their self-imposed hiding, speak up publicly, and seize the media debate from headline-grabbing dogmatic Muslims. He still encourages all voices of moderation to be more vocal. Professor Ramadan lectures around the world on academic and grassroots levels. His grandfather was the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. He is currently the president of the European think tank, European Muslim Network in Brussels. He teaches at Oxford, and he is the author of a provocative book, The Quest for Meaning. It is my pleasure to welcome TARIQ Ramadan back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Right.
How great to see you again.
Thank you.
And it's not just the quest for meaning, it's developing a philosophy of pluralism. And what is that, a philosophy of pluralism?
I think it's really a philosophical journey. We are used to look at the ocean through our windows, our viewpoints. What I'm trying to say is that we may have to change our viewpoints and to look at the window through the ocean. So, for example, to plunge into a topic like, for example, the universals, or education, or tolerance and respect, spirituality, civilizations,
fraternity.
Ethics. Exactly. And then from here, to look at the different viewpoints. So what I'm doing in this book is touching deep topics in a simple way, but going through all these traditions from Buddhism, Hinduism, atheism, agnosticism, and religious traditions, and to say, okay, what do we have in common when we come to this dimension? And at the end of the day, this journey is, you should be ready for being at risk with your own convictions if you want to be open to others. This is the very essence of intellectual empathy.
Okay, say that again.
So you should be ready for risks with your own convictions if you want to understand the other, and just being nurtured by his or her presence in your life.
You point out dramatically in here that universal beliefs that resonate with Muslims also resonate with non-Muslims or Hindus or Christians. Yeah. And we need to find, I think, those universal beliefs. Like you mentioned, compassion, or fraternity, equality.
Yes, exactly.
Compassion.
So the point is really this one. I'm just taking the image of the mountain and saying the top is what we are looking for, and we may have at the top of the mountain there is the summit is the shared common values that we have, but there are different routes, and we have to accept and acknowledge that there are different routes. So at the end of the day, it's really intellectual humility. It's so important. It helps your mind to say, I don't get it all, and it helps your heart to be open. And then this is something which is it's not easy. By the way, it's very easy to sit down and say, you know what, I like pluralism, I like this, but it's difficult.
Sure, but what does pluralism mean to you?
It means that we are sharing common humanity, but we don't have the same objectives, and we don't have the same religions, and we don't have the same philosophies. So this is pluralistic dimensions of culture, civilization, philosophies, and religion, having this essence of being human beings,
right.
Men and women.
And learning to become human is a process that never ends.
Exactly.
Again, you point that out. So take me to Cairo with the philosophy of pluralism. What is going on there now? And I know you're very connected. You went to school in Egypt. Born in Switzerland, but schooled in Egypt.
Yes, I went back to Egypt for my theological, so to speak, studies. Then I went through all the process of this theological studies for being a Muslim scholar. So I did this, and when I was there, I was prevented from being there when I was young because of my father. He was in exile. And then when I started to understand what was happening in Egypt, not being part of, the Muslim Brotherhood, I am the grandson, but I am outside the organization. I started to see when I went first that it was not a democracy, and I was challenging and saying, look, the future of this country is democratization, openness, transparency, no corruption, and not having someone who is democratically elected for life. This is not going to be fair. This is not fair. And now they were talking about his son coming after him, as we had in Syria. So I was involved in all this as someone who is at the same time Egyptian by origin, but Swiss by nationality, and challenging what is happening. So developing a philosophy of pluralism means you, a Canadian citizen, me, a Swiss citizen, with the Egyptian, we share something which is essential. We want freedom, respect, and dignity for every one of us. It means a democratic process, democratization. The model of democracy is not for you and me to say what should be the Egyptian model, because the model are coming out of a history. The Canadian model is not the British model, for example, or the French model, but the principles are immutable, and we don't accept any compromission with freedom, rule of law, equal citizenship, and elections. And
yes, so are you saying don't export democracy, don't export the system, export the values?
Share the principles and don't export the historical models. You can't, you know, this is why I was against what happened in Iraq by saying you are going there to impose a model. No. The principles are the same. And I think that we can, you know, the principles are universals, but the models are historical. This is why we all talk about democracy in Europe, for example, but the French model is not the British model. Everyone is coming out of a specific history. What we want for the Muslims, or for the Muslim majority countries, or for Egypt today, is to abide by these principles. So this is why I'm supporting the people and saying to Mubarak, he has to step down, he has to leave, and the system should now be substituted. We need something which is a transitory period where we are going towards something which is more democracy in the country.
Sure, but when the people do not believe you are the leader anymore, even in Egypt, military rule, when all of the people, or most of the people, believe you're not the leader anymore, you don't have much clout, usually. So tell me where the Muslim Brotherhood fits in, what they believe. I know the roots of the Muslim Brotherhood were not democratic. Would you say now?
No, I think that it's the opposite. We have to look at the history at the beginning.
Okay.
At the beginning, it's an anti-colonialist movement against the British presence, non-violent, legalist, and asking for the society to come back to the Islamic values. This was the beginning. Then, and my grandfather, who founded the Muslim Brotherhood in 28, was killed in 49. Then what we had in Egypt is a very tough dictatorship with Nasser, and he repressed them, and they were put in jail. And we had within the jails radicalization, people saying the only way for us is to kill the tyrant, and others saying no, we have to educate the people. Today, the Muslim Brotherhood, you have people who left the Muslim Brotherhood. For example, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the spokesman for bin Laden, was coming, but he left them telling you are betrayers, you are supporting a dictator. So we have trends within, they left the Muslim Brotherhood, and within the Muslim Brotherhood now, you have people who are very close to the Saudi literalist movement, but you have people very close to the Turkish movement, Erdogan, with openness towards the West. So you can't just come with the monolithic understanding of what Islamism and the Muslim Brotherhood are in Egypt. Now we have to challenge. You want to challenge their views? Let them speak. Don't torture them. Don't come with a dictatorship that are not letting the people speak. The only thing that when the people are abiding by the law, respecting the democratic process, and saying we will respect the democratic process before the election and after the election, this is where we have to challenge them. So I would say I'm very critical with some of the positions that they have, but I'm more critical of any kind of justification of dictatorship in the Muslim majority countries and the Arab world. I think that the future should be for democracy and challenging the views of the people.
Some of the fear in the Western world, as you know, is we don't know what form the Muslim Brotherhood will take.
Yes, but look at what is happening now. People are saying it's like in Iran. That's completely wrong. In Iran, this was the leadership of Imam Khomeini. Today in Tunisia, and now in Egypt, this has nothing to do with Islamists leading the forces. These are young people saying we have enough of dictatorship. After 30 years of a dictator, we want a true democracy. And for where we are, you as a Canadian, why don't we come with something which is clear? We are supporting the democratic principles. This is what I'm saying. Consistency. When I'm speaking about the independence of ethics in the book, I'm saying consistency. We have to be consistent with our own values and not to buy what is said by the dictators. What do they say? They say if it's not us, it's going to be these radicals. No, it's not like this. The Arabs are yearning for more democracy.
Sure, but the leaders also, as you know so well, promise reform, no reform. The system promises reform, no reform.
That's exactly it.
So you're suggesting we need shared dignity and human fraternity, and it perhaps is our only hope for survival, perhaps.
We have to share, but also we have to be demanding. I think it's something which has to do, we don't have to be naive. We are talking about politics, and as you said, the people are promising and they are not keeping their word. We have to be very demanding by saying to the people, we are not going to let you go the way you want. We are here to protect principles, to promote principles and respect and dignity, and this is why we have to be involved. This is why I want the Canadian citizens not only to buy what is said by propaganda, by saying, you know, if it's not dictatorships and there will be no security in the Arab world, or for example, what is going from Israel saying, you know what, you have to support Mubarak because we are losing security. So I want to tell to the Israeli people, you will never get security if you are surrounded by dictators. The future is for you to be surrounded by democracy. You have to make peace with people, not with dictators.
What a good idea. Humanity really is never safe from the dark side at a micro level or a macro level, and that can be a problem. When we come back, let's talk about that. Okay?
Yes.
All right. The Quest for Meaning, Developing a Philosophy of Pluralism. TARIQ Ramadan, one of the most important innovators for the 21st century, according to Time magazine. We'll come back.